two sons, and I love them both. And your question sort of kind of asks, it's kind of, which son do you love the most? This is a difficult set of issues, so I'll try my best to give you a framework for this. There were 108,000 new operations in that category of less than 10,000, and there were 41,000 more operations in the category of $500,000 in sales or more. And there are also 80,000 fewer operations in the middle. So at USDA, our responsibility, it seems to me, is to figure out strategies to help the 108,000 become mid-income sized farm operations. Now, know your farmer, know your food, and the efforts that we're trying to create new markets, local markets, additional markets, greater awareness, all designed to give those folks more opportunity to sell what they grow. We also have credit opportunities through our FSA programs. We have beginning farmer programs that we're trying to get started. All that designed to help those people transition. The folks in the middle, we think we need to figure out ways in which they can add value to what they grow so that they're not just simply growing commodities, but they're adding value to it. So value-added producing grants allow those producers maybe to have a stake in a small processing facility. The energy title of the Farm Bill creates enormous opportunities for new feedstocks for biofuels using waste product. I was in a facility in southern Virginia recently where they were using dried manure as a feedstock for ethanol. It also produced biochar at the end of the process. There's a possibility that biochar could be used as a substitute for petroleum and a based fertilizer, which would be great for the environment. There's also a possibility for biochar to be able to absorb carbon and greenhouse gases and lock them up for centuries. So if there's an offset program, as I believe there should be, farmers might be able to qualify. So there's enormous opportunity here. We just have to make sure that we support that. The production agriculture side, at this point in time, 75% of the food and fiber of this country is produced by those folks in that category. That's not likely to change in the short term. So we create opportunities for smallers to become mid-sized, for mid-sized folks to stay in business. We create more transparency and better marketing opportunities through some livestock regulations we're looking at to make sure that the small producer has a fair break, a fair shake. That's all producers really want. As I talk to them, they want a fair shake. They want a fair market. They want to know what the prices are that the big guys are getting so that they can determine whether they're getting an equal price or a lower price. And so we're looking at ways in which we can support that. Producers want to know where their food's coming from, so we are looking at labeling laws like the cool legislation to make sure that people know as best we can where their food's coming from. So all of those things are involved. We also have an opportunity to create wealth in rural America through trade policy. And right now we have a trade deficit generally in this country. In other words, we basically purchase more than we sell, but not in agriculture. In agriculture, we actually sell more than we purchase. That helps to bring wealth into communities, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. We have to be careful that the trade programs that we have and the trade policies we have are free and they're fair, which is why we're working hard right now with China, just to give you an example. The Chinese were very concerned about the fact that we were creating what they perceived to be barriers to the importation of chicken that was processed in China into the United States. Those who created those concerns were mostly worried about food safety. So we addressed the food safety issues with legislation that recently was passed. So we've removed that barrier. Well, we think the Chinese are currently creating the same kind of improper barriers to pork products. Just because we have H1N1 doesn't mean that you can't consume pork. There's nothing wrong with pork. You can eat the pork. You can't get the flu from eating pork, despite what people may think. So we're in the process of trying to tear those barriers down so that there's a free flow of products. At the same time, we've also created a new approach to global food security. And a lot of times people are concerned about the impact that trade policy has on some developing nations. And our view is we need to think more broadly and more comprehensively about those developing nations. And so we are working on a global food security initiative in which we will not just simply provide those countries who have hungry people our surplus food. But we will also provide them, and should provide them, our technical experience and our knowledge so that they can be more productive than they are today. We're starting this process in Afghanistan. We have a lot of young people over there risking their lives every single day. I've been there. It's a tough place to work. It's a tough place to be in the military. The secret, I think, of our potential success there, it extends beyond military. It extends to our capacity to develop relationships with farmers in Pakistan or in Afghanistan, so that they understand that there's an alternative to poppy. There's a way in which they can rebuild their irrigation systems less expensively than before, so that they can start to grow vegetables and fruits like they did in the past, and nuts, and that they can begin to establish trade opportunities between some of the countries that historically they've had difficulty with. I mean, we're looking at a day when hopefully that border between Pakistan and Afghanistan is not a border where folks who want to do us harm can freely flow back and forth, but that goods can flow freely back and forth, so that those farmers in Pakistan and Afghanistan